All right. Hello, everybody. If your child wanders off, has a stubborn streak, likes to throw temper tantrums, or maybe makes you want to throw your own temper tantrum every once in a while, then you are at the right place. Here is a parent who just has had enough. It's going to look to you like a regular cold medicine commercial at the beginning, and you'll see this is just a joke. But it's a parent acting the way I think a lot of us want to behave sometimes.
Use Vicks First Defense. It's a new microgel that attacks the cold virus where it starts at the back of the nose, before it has a chance to spread and develop.
So if you ever feel like one of those moms, you are definitely in the right place, or a dad or a teacher. If you ever feel like you just get so fed up with that behavior that you want to throw yourself down and do the same thing, you are in the right spot. My name is April Vernon, and I work for a teacher training company. Sorry. It's still recording?
Yeah.
And you're going to fix that? I'll just keep going? Okay. My name is April Vernon, and I work for a teacher training company. So during the week, I am at home with my family, and on weekends, I do trainings for teachers on positive behavior strategies, special needs, all kinds of different topics for Applebaum Training Institute. My husband is an assistant principal, and I am a mother to a 6-year-old kindergartner and a 4-year-old preschooler named Levi. Levi is our youngest. He's our child that has Down syndrome. We live in Mount Sterling, and like I said, I spend about 3 Saturdays a week training big groups of teachers, and then the rest of the time I'm at home practicing my behavior strategies on these two. And there is not one answer that works for every parent or every child. We all have our different styles. The children have their own personalities. There's not one right answer for everything, and it may work on Tuesday and not work on Wednesday. So I think the most powerful thing you can do is have a lot of tools in your toolbox, all kinds of little tricks and things you can pull out of your pocket whenever you need them, and most importantly, positive things that you can do to help change behavior. I think our natural reaction sometimes is to be frustrated because they're doing something that we don't want them to do, or as a parent, I think it's a little bit different because we feel like it's a reflection on us when our children are not behaving the way that we want them to, so it's easy to get stressed out and we don't make our best decisions whenever we're feeling that way. So my goal is to give you some powerful and positive strategies to help change behavior, whether you're a parent or if you provide care for a child with Down syndrome or if you're a teacher. One of the things you've probably heard about children with Down syndrome is that one of their biggest strengths is that they're visual learners. I read something recently that whenever a child with Down syndrome is compared to another child of the same intellectual age, that most of the time in testing they will score higher in the visual area than another child who pretty much is at the same learning level that they are. They're just so strong with their visual learning. So be visual whenever you're trying to give directions to your child so that they can understand specifically what you mean in a very visual way. A lot of us already do that using sign language and things of that nature, but I hope to give you another few tricks that you can use. So one thing that we have been doing with our child that's been really helpful is whenever we get out of the car, I want him to have a spot where he waits. Sometimes I've got to grab something else out of the front seat real quick, and not that I would ever leave him alone and unsupervised, but what we've been doing is I will tell him, put your hand in the square. And whenever we are waiting for the car to be unlocked, or I'm throwing something in the front seat while I'm holding on to his hand, I'm in the habit of that, to automatically do that, and it's been really helpful. We've been in other vehicles. My husband's Car has a circle instead of a square, but he recognizes that's the spot where I put my hand and I wait. And that's been really helpful to keep him safe. And I think a lot of times what we do is we say, wait right there. Well, what does that mean for any child, but especially a child who really is strong in a visual way? There's no visual attached to stay right there. Another issue we've been having at our house lately is fighting over the video games. We've got the Kinect video games where you can move your body and the characters will move in turn to that. And I've got one brother pushing the other brother, that you're in my way, and Levi needed a visual to help him understand what to do. So we have gotten painter's tape that will peel up off of our floors and not leave any marks. And I've taped off special spots for each boy to stand in. Those are Levi's little feet on the left-hand side there. And he now understands. So whenever we start the game and there's a little pushing that begins, all we have to do is say, Levi, get in your square. And he knows how to do that. It also, for me, is good because we're working on shapes with him, and it reinforces those shapes that we want him to learn. So that's something that's been really helpful just because it's a very specific thing. In a classroom, a teacher might say something like, sit on your carpet square. Give that child a visual thing that they can see that's very, very specific. Sometimes even putting their photograph on the chair that they're supposed to sit in or on that carpet square, their name or their picture, so that they can make that connection. It's a really visual thing. I remember speaking with Tracy Brewer about Emily waking up too early or getting out of bed too early and having a hard time understanding when is it okay. And they put an app on her iPad, and there was a visual that showed the moon when it was nighttime and the sun whenever it was daytime, and it helped her understand when is it okay to be out of bed and when is it not okay to be out of bed. And all that she needed was a visual to help her to understand that. Another idea to help be visual when you're giving directions is use photographs. This is a picture from a preschool classroom to show children how to sit whenever they were at circle time. You can use this at home with a picture of how things should be organized. Sometimes we'll say, put things back where you got them, or clean up, and that's a really vague concept to all children. But to tune into that visual strength that children with Down syndrome have, you can have a picture of the bookshelf with all the books going the correct way. You can have a picture of how we should set our juice on the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. But having something that's visual, that they can see a photograph of specifically what it is you're asking them to do, can be really, really helpful. For a child who is using a strategy to help take deep breaths to calm down or something like this, this is something else you can do. For a child, maybe we say you need to calm down, we're going to take 5 deep breaths. This is a little visual that goes with it. So there are 5 little squares with a picture of that smiley face holding her breath, and the child takes 1 deep breath and moves that picture of the smiley face into the empty box underneath the 1. And then they take their 2nd deep breath and they move that smiley face into box 2. And that way they are visualizing as they go through this process. It gives them something to do with their hands, so it's really calming. And I would recommend, if your child is so upset they need to take a deep breath, that you be taking your 5 deep breaths as well. Now, for teachers at Learning Center, sometimes it can be really tough if a child doesn't understand, hey, it's not Learning Center time, but they've got that favorite baby doll over in the corner, so they're sitting down at circle time, and you see this child popping back up and running to the corner to go to that favorite toy. You can visually close those centers for them so they can see this is off limits right now. You know, we use that saying, out of sight, out of mind. They're less distracted whenever that area is covered so they can't see it, or at least marked off with something, but it makes it a lot less tempting. This is another idea to show a child where to stand in line. I know sometimes in a classroom we tell children it's time to line up, or I want you to be first in line, and that's a nice benefit, but if they don't know where they're going, it can cause a big problem. So this is just a little picture of footprints. A teacher can put that by the door of the classroom, and this can be used for all children, but especially good for our visual kiddos, to stand on the footprints. That's where the first person goes whenever they stand in line. So those are just some ideas to be more visual. You can kind of take it from there and think about, what are some other things I can do to help my child understand directions in a very visual way, so it's not vague, There's no room for misunderstanding. They actually see what it is that I'm asking them to do. And just for laughs, one thing to remember is no matter how bad things can be, at least you are not dealing with this kid. Okay, another idea that is really helpful for a positive behavior strategy is to be specific. I want you to close your eyes and to imagine kicking a pink elephant. Just close your eyes and see if you can visualize kicking a pink elephant. Now, I want you to visualize somebody telling you, stop kicking the pink elephant, or don't kick the pink elephant. What does that look like to you? Don't kick the pink elephant. You can go ahead and open your eyes, but I would imagine that you're probably visualizing somebody kicking a pink elephant because there really isn't a visual for don't. And we think maybe for stop there's a visual, but you still aren't visualizing what you're supposed to do instead. So 3 words to avoid when you're giving directions to a child are no, don't, and stop. And you think about what are the first 3 words that we say when we want to change a child's behavior. We usually go straight to those no, don't, and stop. So I want you to imagine me telling a child, no running. What is that child imagining in his mind? Probably running. So rather than saying no running, I should say walk. Rather than saying don't wipe your hands up and down the wall, tell a child put your hands in your pocket. What we spend a lot of time doing is we tell them what we don't want to do, and we leave all of this room for other things. I'll give you an example. I saw one of my children running the other day, and I said, stop running. And he looks at me, continuing to run, but he adds a little hop to it, and he says, I'm skipping. So I didn't want him to run, hop, gallop, or trot in our church building. I wanted him to walk, but that's not what I said. What we need to do is kind of change the way we normally give those directions and tell the child what you want instead of what you don't want. You're going to save words. You're going to be more powerful, you're going to be more positive, and we're going to avoid those words, no, don't, and stop. If you don't think you say those words very much, try to put some coins in your pocket. Keep a bunch of coins in your right pocket, and every time you say no, don't, or stop, move a coin to your left pocket. Try it for one day and see how many coins you end up in that left pocket. And you might see the need to change your thinking whenever you're giving directions to your child. I think that's a big mistake that we make a lot, and it takes a while to change a habit. They say it takes anywhere from 21 to 30 days to change a habit. So don't give up, and maybe get somebody on board to kind of help you and remind you. Put some notes around your house. I have stuck a note on my refrigerator before that just has no, don't, and stop written on it and a big X over it, so I remind myself to try to avoid those words. Another thing, whenever you're working on this too, is to be encouraging whenever you're trying to change behavior. A lot of times it's don't do that, I don't want you to do that, and we can still correct behavior in a more encouraging way. So instead of reprimanding, let me show you another way to do that. I think sometimes we forget how we want our child to be independent. We want them to do things for themselves. And when they're doing it wrong, we just want to stop them as fast as we can and take over for them. So when you see that child carrying something in her mouth that she needs to carry with her hands, just walk over and say, let me show you another way to do that. Or what if you tried it this way? And you can model it. Again, you're going to be more visual when you're actually showing them what you want them to do. And this is a more positive way to help make that change in behavior. Another really important thing to do is to be proactive. Think about things ahead of time. You can plant little seeds in their minds, give them reminders, give them directions before they do it wrong, before they forget what you want them to do. If you're creating that new habit, keep in mind 21 to 30 days for any of us to change a habit. If you've ever moved your trash can in your kitchen to the wrong or to a new place, you'll notice over and over again turning the wrong direction because it's not where you're used to it being. It really is hard to change things up, and we need to be patient with the children and patient with ourselves when we're making those changes. So some ideas for being proactive. Again, give directions before there is a problem. Think about planting little encouraging seeds and tell them, I know you're going to remember to do this time, or I know you're going to remember to put lid on the toothpaste whenever you're done tonight. Give them those reminders before the problem happens. And what you're doing is sounding as if you're being helpful rather than telling them you did it wrong this time. Let the child practice different things. We have a problem with our refrigerator door being left open a lot. The other day I came in the kitchen and the freezer door had been left open long enough for everything to start thawing out in the freezer. So we practice shutting the freezer door. I open it and I ask Levi to shut it again and again and again. And he's getting in the habit to understand when I see this door open, my job is to shut it. If it is open and he's already in the other room and it would definitely be easier for me to shut that door, I still go get him and I walk him in here and into the kitchen and I have him shut the door. Because if I do it for him, he's not going to get in that habit. I need to just see it for himself, and I need him to know what he needs to do. If you're working on the child asking permission before they go somewhere, have them practice it with you again and again and again, even if they're not going anywhere at the moment. If you have a problem with that child running off without you knowing, or even opening a door without permission, practice with them. One of the things that we have done is we have practiced what to do when someone takes a toy from you, and we let him know we were playing and we were pretending, but we would actually take that toy away and look at him and wait and talk to him about what he needed to do, and that's really made a big difference. And that's something beneficial with all children. You can do role plays, you can practice, but get them, remember what you're doing is changing a habit. And it's going to take time, it's going to take practice. It's not going to be something that you sit down and you talk about and automatically the child's going to remember every single time to do it right from then on out. So just focus on it as being a habit change and dedicate yourself that way and think about how long it may take to do that. But once we get in a habit, that's the benefit. It is a habit, and that's what we naturally do from then on out. So it'll definitely be worth your effort and your time putting into it. Another thing whenever it comes to being positive about behavior, be consistent, and there's several different ways to be consistent. I'll give you an example because I've just made the mistake at my house. We started playing I'm Gonna Get You, and I'm Gonna Get You at bedtime has now become I'm going to have to chase you around the house to give you your inhaler before bed, and I'm going to have to chase you around the house to give you your acid reflux medicine before school, and now I'm going to have to chase you around the house to get your shirt on. And we should have never started playing I'm going to get you at our house. Think about, is this really something that we want to start? And I know it's not that you never play a game with your child because it's going to be a problem, but think about some of the games that people like to play, even with small children. I know sometimes you'll have a family get together, and one of the uncles that plays a lot with the kids, one of the first things they'll want to do sometimes is grab something away from the child and say, "It's mine." And you think about what kind of habit you're creating in the child whenever you do that. And they'll joke and even put their arms around mommy and say, "This is my mommy," to see what the child does. But if that becomes something that's funny and rewarding, then the child is going to start grabbing other people's things and saying, "Mine." And that funny little game may end up turning into a phone call for a parent conference. So be consistent in the games that you play, and think about, once you start that game, is that going to be something that's going to be a problem for the child whenever they try to play that with a classmate who doesn't understand? Other things about being consistent: unless you really want to follow through with it, be careful about saying no or saying we're not going to do that. Sometimes we say, "No, we're not going to do that right now," and then we find and realize, well, it's really not that big of a deal, and it may not be that big of a deal. The big deal is that I told my child no, and then 5 minutes later I've changed my mind, so the next time I say no, he thinks I'm going to change my mind. So be careful. If it's not that big of a deal, don't say no in the first place. And I have really had to practice and make myself stop and think, how do I want to answer this question? So that once my child hears me say, "No, we're not going to do that," he doesn't fight with it. He doesn't continue pushing that same thing. So don't say it unless you intend to follow through. Be careful about the kinds of play you encourage. Use consistent language to convey your expectations. One example would be, if you're going to say be gentle, people say be easy or be nice, and you've got to pick what word you want to use and stick with that word and teach the classroom teacher the word that you use. At our house, we use the word gentle. If my child is being rough with the cat, we say gentle, and we've actually practiced gentle. And what we'll do is we'll have him hold his arm up, and we'll gently touch our arms, and we'll sing a song. "This is the way we pet the cat, pet the cat, pet the cat." We talk about that word, gentle, gentle. When he pushes his brother, remember, we don't want to say "don't push," because that doesn't make sense to him. And I'm not telling him what to do. So when I see him push, we walk over and we say gentle. And he's gotten now to where if he pushes and we look over at him and he knows, he'll reach over and he'll just really sweetly touch his brother's back because he understands, I should have done it this way. So be consistent. If you're going to say gentle whenever you want a gentle touch, make sure you say it the same way every time. Another example is when you want the child not to yell. You may say, use your quiet voice. The teacher may say, use your indoor voice. Somebody else may say, use a soft voice. And none of those are really specific or meaningful. So we need to give it meaning and practice, and we need to make sure we're trying to use those same words to convey that expectation so the child understands what it is that we mean. So if you're going to say, use your inside voice, then consistently use inside voice. Don't change it up to where it doesn't make sense with the child. And maybe either see if at school they can use the same word, or at home you use the word that's being used at school to convey that expectation. So it's consistent in different environments and the child fully understands what's being asked of him. I think sometimes children don't follow through or do what we've asked them to simply because they didn't specifically understand what we wanted them to. We had a child one time when I was working in a child care center, and he was running behind, couldn't catch up with everybody, and we were hollering at him to hurry up, and he came up to the front of the line, a little tear just dribbling down his cheek, and he said, "I want to be good, sometimes I just don't know how." And I really think that's the case a lot of times with our children. So give them the benefit of the doubt and try to help them to understand and be consistent so they know what it is that you mean. And when it comes to parenting, we all make mistakes, and I'm going to show you a video that I absolutely love of people who unfortunately made their mistakes on national television.
September. something a burglar would not want to see when he breaks into a house? Rob.
Naked grandma!
Naked, huh?
I don't want to see that either.
Gentlemen, tell me, what is your favorite part of our Newlywed Game set? Jim?
Probably wife number 2.
Name a piece of clothing wives buy for their husbands.
Halter tops.
Name something you feel before you buy it.
Excited.
A vegetable you marinate.
Grapes.
So we all make mistakes. We're not going to get it right every time, but hopefully this will just give you some tips that you can use. We're going to talk next about power struggles. One of the big keys to remember when you find yourself in a power struggle with your child is to remember that the more you react, the worse the behavior may become. There may be times when that child thinks your horrific expression on your face is hysterical, and so they will do it again just to see you get upset about it. So that's something to be really careful about it. I notice a lot of times when I can bite my tongue or look the other way and take a deep breath, not addressing it, sometimes my child will just stop doing it because he's not getting any attention. A lot of times kids will do a behavior simply to get a reaction out of us. So be careful about that. Don't be the person that's fun to make angry, and be careful not to overreact. I do not mean at all that we're going to let the child do whatever they want to, but I think there's some things that we can ignore. I heard someone say we have to stick to our guns without shooting ourselves in the foot, and that's really a great way to look at it when we think about behavior problems. We do not have to put our thumb on top of every single thing that the child does, and a really great way to handle behavior is just to give them 2 positive choices. And what we tend to do is we feel like we're giving a choice when we say, you do what I've just asked you to do, or you're going to go to your room, or you do what I've asked you to do, or you're going to go to timeout. Those are 2 choices, but one is positive and one is negative. And that's really just inviting the power struggle. Sometimes a child hears you say, you do that, or I'm going to put you in timeout, and they're like, well, bring it. Let's see if you're going to do what you say or not, because you didn't do it last week. Or, you know, grandma didn't follow through the last time she said that. They'll really push to see if they can get what it is that they wanted. So be really careful about that, especially if you've got a child with a stubborn streak, because they will just want to put up their dukes and fight to the end whenever they hear us say, you do this or I'm going to punish you. So instead, give 2 positive choices. And by positive, I mean everybody wins. I'll give you an example. You can clean up in your room, you can clean up the blocks, or you can clean up the puzzles. What do you choose? Either way, they're cleaning up, right? They feel like they got some power. You feel like you got some power. Everybody wins in that situation. I knew a child who had this thing for her Princess Sippy Cup. And when the Princess Sippy Cup was not able to be used, she would throw herself on the floor. I mean, knock down, drag out, temper tantrum. And I was in a situation where I had her by myself. I was serving lunch, and the Princess Sippy Cup was not available. So I started out with 2 positives because I knew she'd freak out if she really thought about not being able to have what she wanted. So I gave her 2 options. You can use the purple one or you can use the pink one. Didn't even mention we don't have the princess one today, but you can pick from these 2. And she picked one and went on with her day, and it was not that big of a deal. So if you can give 2 positive choices. I had a child who dumped out a bunch of blocks after we had worked together to get them all cleaned up. And he dumped them out and looked at me with this challenging look in his eyes. So there really wasn't going to be an option for that. I wanted him to pick those blocks up. So I had to think hard about how can I give him a little power within these limits. So I said, you can clean them up with your hands, or you can clean them up with your feet. And he sat down and took his little shoes off and took his socks off and put every little block away with his toes. Yes, we wiped them down before we played with them again, but we both won. I won because I got him to do what I wanted him to do, and he won because he felt like he had some power over the situation. I will do something like, it's time for us to get a diaper change, and my child starts running the other direction. So you can fly like a bird to get your diaper changed at the changing table, or you can drive your pretend motorcycle to the changing table. And all of a sudden, the child that was running the other way says, vroom, 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 and pretends like he's driving his motorcycle over to the changing table. So 2 positive choices. You can win. The child can win. It's a really great thing to do. And I know some of you are thinking, yeah, but what about when it doesn't work? So I'm going to give you a little bonus here. It's not on a slide. But when I have that situation and the child still says no, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. And it seems like that's one of the words that are really good. Levi has speech apraxia, and we get about 4 words and 30 signs from him, but one of the words that he's best at saying is no. So we have moved from yo, which he used to say, to a real nasally do. So that is, we're moving in the right direction there, and he is saying it from the right part of his mouth, but that's one of his favorite words right now. So the other day, he ate a granola bar, and he dropped the wrapper right in my living room. And although he usually loves to throw things in the trash, my cell phone, my keys, he's really good at putting things in the trash. He did not want to throw that wrapper in the trash. And I said, Levi, put your wrapper in the trash. And he said, no. And I said, you need to put it in the trash. No. So I walked over to where he was, and I put that little wrapper in his hand, and we sang a little song, and we walked over to the trash can. Now, he so badly did not want to listen to me. He actually curved his fingers away from the wrapper so he could get as far from doing what I asked as possible. But we sang a little song, we happily walked to the trash can, and I helped him put it in the trash and gave him a lot of positive attention once he did what I've asked him to do. So my advice is, if I am in a situation where I give the 2 positive choices, I do all the right things, and my child still is not doing what I've asked him to do, then I will help him do it physically in a gentle way, in a happy way, while singing a song. If it is Thursday afternoon, you are run ragged, and you're singing your song like, this is the way we do it, then you don't want to touch the child. And that's not the time to do that. But if you can calmly sing a song, if you can go hand over hand and take that child's hands and actually help them do that thing, you can have a lot of success. And the message you're sending to the child is, you do what I ask to be done, and that's it. My child has learned, you either do it by yourself or you're going to do it with my help. But when mommy says we're going to do something, that's how we're going to do that. So just remember, do it in a positive way. If you are not capable of doing that, remember, don't start that power struggle if you're not willing to follow it through and see it to the end, because your child's going to see, I can say no and I can get away with it. You can get someone else who is calm at the moment to help you. But sing a song, gently actually help them move to do what it is that you've asked them to do. And sometimes just helping them. You know, that big old pile of blocks on the floor, and you tell the child, let's put the blocks in the bin, that may be a really overwhelming chore for a small child. That's like telling me to go clean my garage. We don't know where to start. It's too big of a job. So maybe helping the child get it started. But remember to follow through in a positive tone, not to be angry. Our goal is to get the child to understand, to follow through, and they're not going to get that message whenever they're so focused on our frustration. One of the things that I think is really powerful is to stick to your limits and to be consistent, but to do so with compassion. When the child doesn't do what we've asked, or we have to give a consequence to them, to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry we have to do this. I'm so sorry you're not going to be able to play with this right now. I'm so sorry we're going to put this away until later. Where I'm not angry with you, I'm sorry that you've made that choice, to follow through, but with compassion. So give those 2 positive choices. Another good trick is just to distract them. Distract the child. Sometimes it can be as simple as, hey, look at the bird out the window. And all of a sudden, they forget what they were fighting about. They forget what they were frustrated about. A lot of us snap out of our anger really quickly, don't we? We can be whining or complaining. I don't want to do this. I can't believe this is going on. And we're going on and on about it. And then my boss calls, and I pick up the phone and say, hello, in a real happy voice, because I've now distracted from my frustration, and now I'm focused on that phone call. So think about distracting the child. Be silly. Sometimes that's the best way to calm myself down and to calm my child down as well. When he doesn't want to walk down to the bus stop and I'm starting to grit my teeth and thinking the bus is coming down here, we got to hurry up and get down there, I'll say, come on, let's go like this, and start stomping my feet and being really silly and making a weird noise or acting like a dinosaur. And the next thing I know, he's running down the hill to the bus with me because we're doing something that's fun. So distract them, make it fun, be silly. Just try to help calm yourself down. Some other ideas for power struggles. This one is a real visual thing, be done in the classroom or at home. And it's to have a bag of strategies. This one's called a take one bag, where you open up the bag and the child pulls out one piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, there's a way to deal with frustration. You can stretch, you can rock on the rocking chair. Dusting off your angries is to keep a little feather duster, and you can dust them off around their neck and tickle them a little bit. It's a funny way to kind of calm them down. Tell them, I'm going to dust off your grumpies. I know a school teacher that stands in the doorway of her classroom when they come inside from recess, and she dusts off every single child on their way back into the classroom, and it just gets everybody laughing. It's a distraction, and this is a way to give a strategy to the child too, but it's not, I'm telling you, you're going to go rock in that chair till you calm down. It's here, choose a way to help you calm down, and it's a positive and it's a happy thing. This is another idea. I saw this in a classroom and thought it was really good. You could use this at home too. These are called cool down cubes. You can find the cubes at the grocery store where they sell coolers and lunch boxes, and they're just little cubes that you can freeze in your freezer that actually can go in a lunch box. You don't have to keep them cold in order to use them as a cool down cube, but on each of these cubes in magic marker, the teacher here has written strategies for calming down. Take 5 deep breaths, go read a book, get a hug, whatever it is. So the child reaches in there, pulls one out, and then they follow through with what it says. So that's a nice idea. It's distracting. I think half the time, by the time I've got the lid unscrewed from this cool down cube jar, the child's already calming down and not so upset. Hand mats are good for kids who like to push or squeeze someone when they get frustrated. I've got a little pusher on my hands, so whenever he's having a conflict with another child, he will put his hands up and he will push. What this is where we trace the child's handprints. You can put them at home on your refrigerator door or on a wall. In the classroom, this can go on the wall somewhere, and the child actually goes up to the handprints and they push against them and put that pressure on those handprints. It's not going to hurt anyone. It's a distraction. They can take some deep breaths while they're there, and you're removing them from that frustrating situation, and then they can go back to playing. So it's a good way to prevent a child who may have some hurting behaviors. You can also give that child some lavender Play-Doh. You can do it a couple different ways. If there aren't any allergy problems, a drop of essential oil and some purple Play-Doh with lavender scent can be really soothing and calming for the child. This is just an actual piece of lavender, and those little petals break off and can go in there, and so they dig around and push, and they can pick them out or feel those things. Sometimes just some Play-Doh with some objects hidden inside, and they dig around and pull those things out. Even if it's not a choking hazard for a child to use small beads, you can use the big coins that you get at party supply stores if it's a child that might be tempted to put a bead in his or her mouth. But just the kneading through the dough, pushing and pulling, that can be something really relaxing, can release some energy. And you can add that aromatherapy in there to do it with the lavender scent as well. Another thing, if your child has a lot of power struggles, one thing that's really important is to teach our kids to recognize their feelings. And that's, again, use your visuals. This is just a little poster. You can get these at teacher supply stores. You can print them off the internet. But these are just different facial expressions. I think what we tend to do is whenever our children get old enough, we always tell kids, use your words. And they don't know what words to use because we've worked on our alphabet and our numbers and our shapes and all these other things that we've taught them. And sometimes we forget to teach them what these facial expressions represent. So they don't know what it's called. So show them pictures of different facial expressions. Talk about what that is. When your child is experiencing an emotion, give it a name. label it. When you see happiness, you tell that child, you are happy, that is happy, I'm glad you're happy. When you see frustrated, tell them that's that feeling, that's the name for it. I think sometimes we don't realize that they can grasp that because it is a visual thing. And those are, most of us would probably say that our children are very empathetic of others and they're very aware of the feelings of others. But if they don't have the words to go with it, it's not going to be as beneficial for them. So you can really help your child whenever you give them the names for those feelings. And this is something we can work out with a really young age. I was in an infant room working with a teacher, and she really was good at teaching feelings. And you would think, why would you do that with kids that aren't even walking yet? But she would always label feelings when she saw a child express emotion. And I remember one day the children were in their high chairs at this child care, and they're having their little Cheerio snack. And one of the 10-month-old babies, her dad came to pick her up early. And this 10-month-old baby looked at her daddy, and she went, happy. She knew what that was called at 10 months old. So don't underestimate what your child is able to comprehend. We know sometimes they don't have the language to go with it, but when they do get that language, I want them to be able to express their feelings so we don't have the hitting and the hurting and all of those frustrations because they're not able to communicate in an emotional way. Another thing you can do is a feelings thermometer, and start this out with 2. Start out with happy and sad, and that's it. And when they're happy, you can move it to the happy. And when they're sad or frustrated, move to the sad or frustrated. And this is something you can keep on your refrigerator door in a classroom. It can be kept at the child's desk. And we move this when we see those emotions. So the child is making that connection. And then when they do get the language, they're able to say to someone, I am frustrated, I am upset, I need some help. But they can't talk through those feelings until they've got those labels for them. So it's another really visual thing that you can do. And last but not least, one of the most powerful behavior strategies is to take care of yourself. I fly a lot, and I hear the safety demonstrations again and again and again to where I don't even listen sometimes. It's to the point, if I'm on a Delta ERJ, that's a 50-seater jet, I know not only that there are 2 exit rows, but I know that there's one located at the galley door where you just entered and one located at the entrance directly across. There are 2 exit rows located at row 8. I've got it completely memorized, but there's something they say every single time that really, really hits me, and it's when they talk about those oxygen masks. And I flew this winter with my 2 boys, me and my 2 boys by ourselves. And here I have Levi, who has a lot of respiratory problems and had recently been in the hospital for needing oxygen because of some breathing problems that he had. So here I am on an airplane with him. So when they talk about those oxygen masks coming down, I needed them to tell me what to do, because the rule is, and what they tell you to do, and you probably know, is to put on your own oxygen mask first before assisting others. And that's not your natural reaction when you have a child with special needs that needs you, right? My natural reaction would have been, if I saw those oxygen masks coming down, I want to pop one on Levi's face first. But what I have to remember, and what that flight attendant is telling me, you will not be of any assistance to the people around you if you're passed out from lack of oxygen. And I think sometimes we do that to ourselves. I read something the other day, one of those little articles on Facebook, but it said that being a special needs parent was compared to having post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason is because we're always on that high alert. You all know that feeling of losing where your child is at. I don't see my child. And you start that panic to rise in your chest. I'm responsible for this child. He needs me. I need to know where he's at. And we get scared. And we're on that high alert all the time. Some of us are on high alert because of health problems. Some of us are on high alert because our child's behavior problems. Sometimes we're on high alert because we know that child really does not have that sense of safety for himself or herself. So we're afraid they're going to run off and it's going to hurt. And I know how that's a really hard thing to carry with us every moment of every day, being responsible for that child. And so much of their safety depends on us. So take care of yourself. Couple little tips for you. Give yourself 15 minutes every day just for you, whether it is to lock yourself in the bathroom or read a book. Think about what you would do for 15 minutes, and you can get up 15 minutes earlier. And I know sometimes I think, oh, I need as much sleep as I can. My child doesn't let me sleep through the night or whatever, but I've read that 20 minutes of exercise is actually more energizing than 2 extra hours of sleep. And I know most of us would say, I would love to get another 2 hours of sleep, but you're actually more energized if you exercise for 20 minutes. So think about, maybe, do you want to exercise? Do you want to read a book? What is that thing you used to do for yourself that you don't do anymore? And it doesn't have to be that you're giving yourself 2 hours at the gym every day, but am I giving myself 15 minutes a day at least to take care of myself? And that doesn't sound like much, 15 minutes, but if you take 15 minutes a day times 7 days per week, you're looking at 105 minutes in a week. And if I take that to 52 weeks a year, that's 5,460 minutes. So that adds up to about 91 hours a year. Think about what you could do in 90 minutes or 91 hours, what you could accomplish. That maybe you think, I can't do this because I need to always be there for my child. What can you do for yourself? So give yourself 15 minutes a day. Have a mantra. Write it down, post it, quote it to yourself. Think about what it is that you say, a prayer or a quote or a verse that encourages you. I saw a poster that said, today is a good day to have a good day. And that's something that I've written down and put it where I can see it a lot. Think about your phrase that helps you get through things and say it often. But have yourself just a little mantra that you can say to encourage yourself. We talk to ourselves all the time, whether we do it out loud or not. I think we can all admit that we talk to ourselves a lot. And that's your biggest way to deal with stress, is what you say to yourself. And if you're constantly saying, I can't do this, you're going to keep making it worse and bringing yourself down. Think about whenever you're really tired and you tell somebody, oh, I'm so tired. How do you feel? You feel more tired. So tell yourself, I'm energetic, or I can do this, or I've handled worse, or this is going to be a good day. But whatever you say to yourself really makes a difference in your stress level. You can make it worse or you can make it better, all depending on what you say to yourself. Spend some time with your spouse or a friend. Take that time to get someone else to take care of your child. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be for a really long period of time, but just that little bit of time. Even if it's something you do after the kids are in bed and you watch your favorite show, one episode of your favorite show on Netflix, but just having that special time to share with someone that you care about. I think a lot of the time when we feel stressed out, it's when we're not giving time to the things we really value. And I think most of us would say, if we had to sit down and write a list of our values, most of us are going to say our families, our health, maybe our faith. And when we're not giving time to those values, that's when we feel stressed. So how can you give yourself that time for your family, for your faith, for your health that maybe you're not doing? And once you can say that you're devoting some of your time to the things you value most, you're going to feel less stressed out. Focus on the good. There are so many benefits and so many wonderful things that we get from working with these children and from having children. So focus on those good things. And remember, and this is huge, there is no right or wrong way to parent any child. I think we are so hard on ourselves parenting any child, but especially a child with special needs. And we want to know, it's probably why you signed up to watch this webinar. Am I doing this right? And there's not any one right or wrong way to do things. I wanted to share with you, this is a poem that I wrote called Special Needs Moms. If you want a copy of it, you can, if you just type in Special Needs Moms poem, you'll find it pretty easily on the internet. And but this, it's 2 different slides, but I'm going to read this poem to you and just encourage you with this, I hope. It says, you may think us special moms have it pretty rough. We have no choice. We just manage life when things get really tough. We've made it through the days we thought we'd never make it through. We've even impressed our own selves with all that we can do. We've gained patience beyond measure, love we never dreamed of giving. We worry about the future, but know this special life's worth living. We have bad days and hurt sometimes, but we hold our heads up high. We feel joy and pride and thankfulness more often than we cry. For our kids, we aren't just super moms. No, we do much more. We are cheerleaders, nurses, and therapists who don't walk out the door. We handle rude remarks and unkind stares with dignity and grace, even though the pain they bring cannot be erased. Therapies and treatment routes are a lot for us to digest. We don't know what the future holds, but give our kids our best. None of us can be replaced, so we don't get many breaks. It wears us out, but to help our kids, we'll do whatever it takes. We are selfless, not by choice, you see. Our kids just have more needs. We're not out to change the world, but want to plant some seeds. We want our kids accepted. That really is our aim. When we look at them, we just see kids. We hope you'll do the same. So hope that will encourage you. You are not alone. There are a lot of other parents that are struggling with behavior of kids that don't even have special needs. So remember that, and that there is no right way to parent any child, and you are enough.